All right, so in our last video, we talked about both multiplying and dividing polynomials. In that section, it was all about multiplying a monomial by a polynomial. So you always had where one of them was just a single term. So for example, something like 3x. And the second one could be anything. It could just be another monomial, it could be a binomial, a trinomial, it didn't really matter. And what we ended up doing was just distributing that, multiplying it by each of the terms. So for this example, we would take 3x multiplied by 2x is 6x squared. And then 3x multiplied by 5 is 15x, and it was minus 5, so minus 15x. Today we're going to do a little bit more with multiplication, in the sense that we're going to look at where you could actually have multiple polynomials, where one is not just a monomial, just a single term. An example looks like this. We've got 3x plus 2 in parentheses multiplied by 2x minus 5. So think about kind of what we might do in order to multiply this, kind of like what we did up above. And actually, it's going to start the exact same way. We're still going to take that 3x and multiply it by both of those terms in the second parentheses. Now notice that's the exact same as what we had up here. And so let's just copy that down. That was 6x squared minus 15x. But we've also got this 2 that's inside of our first parentheses. So we actually need to do something with it as well. In fact, we're actually going to do the exact same thing. We're going to take 2 and multiply by 2x, and that's 4x, so plus 4x. And then 2 multiplied by 5 is a minus 10. Once we've done that, really all we have to check for is if there are any terms that we can combine. Oftentimes, these middle two terms are ones that can be put together. Negative 15 plus 4 is negative 11x. And then we're just going to copy down the first term, which was 6x squared, and copy down the last term, which was minus 10. So when we're multiplying polynomials, and that's going to be what we focus on today, division, we're just going to keep that as dividing by a monomial, so that won't get any more complicated. But with multiplying, we need to look at a few more examples. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to distribute every term in the first parentheses to every term in the second parentheses. And then we're just going to combine like terms whenever we have to. So let's look at a few more examples of this where we're taking a binomial multiplied by a binomial. So in this example, we've got 6h minus 7 multiplied by 2h plus 3. So same idea, we're going to take 6h multiplied by 2h is 12h squared, and then 6h multiplied by 3 is 18h. Next, we'll take our second term, which is the minus 7, and do the same thing. So negative 7 multiplied by 2h is negative 14h. Negative 7 multiplied by 3 is a negative 21. Now, we'll continue to check these middle two terms, and pretty much always those are going to combine. In this case, 18 minus 14 is positive 4h. And then the first term, which is the 12h squared, and the last term, which is the minus 21, we'll just copy down after it. All right, let's take a look at another example. So we've got 5m plus 2 multiplied by 8m minus 1. Once again, same idea. We're going to take our first term, which is 5m, and distribute it first. So 5m multiplied by 8m is 40m squared. And then 5m multiplied by negative 1 is a minus 5m. Next up, we'll distribute this 2. So 2 multiplied by 8 is 16m. And 2 multiplied by negative 1 is negative 2. Then we'll take a look once again at these middle two terms. Negative 5m plus 16m is a positive 11m. We'll copy down our 40m squared, copy down our minus 2. All right. Now in this next example, we need to be careful. We've got 3a minus 4 in parentheses being squared. And what most people try to do is they just try to take everything to the power of 2 because that's what we were used to doing in our exponents unit. The problem with that is we're not going to get the right answer. what we need to do instead, we need to be careful with how we work this. What we need to do is take 3a minus 4, and when you square something, you multiply it by itself. In other words, 3a minus 4 squared is taking 3a minus 4 and multiplying by 3a minus 4. And then we're going to work this just like we would any other problem where we need to distribute. So we'll take 3a multiplied by 3a is 9a squared, and 3a multiplied by negative 4 is negative 12a. Next, we'll take our second term and distribute it. So negative 4 multiplied by 3a is negative 12a, and negative 4 multiplied by negative 4 is a plus 16. Then we'll take our middle two terms and combine, so negative 12 plus negative 12 is negative 24a. We'll copy down our 9a squared, copy down our plus 16, and there we have it. Okay, so one more example, we'll look at a binomial multiplied by a binomial, and then we're going to look at a couple of examples where they're a little bit bigger. So on this example, we've got 2n plus 5 multiplied by 2n minus 5. And we're going to see something kind of interesting that'll happen. Notice first that the two parentheses are essentially the same, the only difference being that one of them has a plus, the other one having a minus. So when we distribute, we're going to do it the same way as each of the other problems. So 2n multiplied by 2n is 4n squared. 2n multiplied by negative 5 is negative 10n. And then our second term, the plus 5 multiplied by 2n is a plus 10n. And 5 multiplied by negative 5 is negative 25. All right, so when we combine like terms, negative 10n plus 10n actually adds to be 0. So then you just copy down the other two terms, 4n squared and then minus 25, and that is it. So this is kind of a special example where you've got these two parentheses which are the same, except for that one is plus and the other is minus. And anytime that's the case, those middle two terms will cancel, and you'll just have the first term and last term left for your final answer. All right, so last two examples we're going to look at is where you've got a trinomial multiplied by a binomial. So we've got a little bit bigger examples here for these last two problems. But the same idea is still going to apply. We're still going to work them pretty much the same as we have the other problems. So let's take a look first at this example here. So we've got 6n minus 8 multiplied by 2n squared plus n plus 7. And really the only difference is when we distribute is we're going to take 6n and distribute it to not just one or two, but three terms. So let's take a look at what that ends up being. So we'll take 6n multiplied by 2n squared. 6 multiplied by 2 is 12. N multiplied by n squared is n to the third. And then 6n multiplied by n is just 6n squared. 6n multiplied by 7 is 42n. It's really the same idea, you're just doing it to three terms instead of to two. And then we'll do the exact same thing with our minus 8. So minus 8 multiplied by 2n is a minus 16n squared. Negative 8 multiplied by n is negative 8n. And negative 8 multiplied by 7 is minus 56. All right, so now it's time to combine some like terms. For 12n cubed, that is the only one that is cubed, so we'll just copy that down and look for our next two terms. So for n squared, we have plus 6n squared and a minus 16n squared. So that's 6 minus 16 is negative 10n squared. And then we'll look for our next two terms. So n by itself, we'll have 42n minus 8n, so 42 minus 8 is plus 34n. And then finally, we just have a minus 56 for the end of our problem. So a little bit more combining like terms that you have to do, but pretty much everything else stays the same. All right. So for our last example, we do have something a little bit different. We've got now 3 terms for our first parentheses and just 2 terms for our second. One thing you could do if you don't like it this way is to just rewrite it. So write the 2x plus 3 first, and the negative x squared plus 3x plus 1 second, and then you can work it just like we did on the previous problem. Take the 2x and distribute first, take the 3 and distribute second. But just to show you a little bit different way of working through these, we're going to go ahead and leave it as it is. And so here's what we're going to end up having to do, is we're going to have to take each of these 3 terms and distribute it. So let's look at what that is going to be like. We're going to start with negative x squared. So negative x squared multiplied by 2x is negative 2x cubed. And then negative x squared multiplied by 3 is a minus 3x squared. Next, we'll take our next term, which is our plus 3x, and do the same thing. So 3 multiplied by 2 is a positive 6x squared. And then 3x multiplied by 3 is a plus 9x. Now here's where this one's a little bit different. Notice that we still have one last term that we need to distribute, which is this plus 1. So if we take positive 1 multiplied by 2, that's just a plus 2x. And then positive 1 multiplied by 3 is a plus 3. All right. So notice that negative 2x cubed has nothing to combine with. We'll just go ahead and copy that down. But the negative 3x squared plus 6x squared, that adds to be a positive 3x squared. Next, 9x plus 2x, that adds to be 11x. And then the plus 3 at the end has nothing to combine with. And actually, there it is. All right, guys, so that is it for today's video. Just a little bit more with multiplication. Again, very similar to what we did before, just a couple more terms to distribute. Make sure that you're combining like terms at the end, and I don't think we should have any problems. Until next time, have a good rest of your day.